If you think that you can't make a good living as a physician coach, well, your opinion may differ after you listen or watch this interview. This MedPeds doctor started his coaching practice just on the side, just like as everyone else usually does, but understood that the basis for any business is solving people's problems. If you can solve problems, you've got an awesome foundation for a business. And in this case, he helped physicians become more prosperous as well as more productive. And now he has a six-figure coaching income. The sky's the limit with this doctor. I think you'll be inspired, especially if you're someone who wants to get into the coaching realm, and we need really good doctors to get into this. My interview with Dr. Junaid Niazi on this episode of Bootstrap MD. Hey guys, this is Dr. Mike Wu Ming. Welcome to another edition of Bootstrap MD. I have been hunting this man for the last, I would say, 3 to 6 months, and I finally got him on the program. It's someone I wanted to interview for quite some time. As you know, I have a site called Physician Coaches, physiciancoaches.com, and he is part of the Physician Coaches program. I've been able to work with him, and his coaching business has grown leaps and bounds. He's a board-certified internist and pediatrician who works as a primary care physician for a large healthcare organization in the upper Midwest. Part of his time he spent as an information services medical director, working on optimizing the electronic medical record, and we'll see why that's important as we talk about what his expertise is. He does this to help for patient care and for physicians. Did his undergrad at Rice University, med school at Baylor, and residency at the University of Minnesota. He's married to a pediatrician and has 2 rambunctious toddlers. In addition to those roles, which I think you're going to be very interested in, he's a physician life coach and an entrepreneur via his business, the Prosperous Life MD, where he blogs and coaches physicians on all things wellness, productivity, finances, and careers. But you may know him best because he has a group coaching program called Charting Conquer that helps physicians complete their charting at work. And to date, has helped over 100 doctors reclaim their time at home for themselves. So I'd like to welcome to the program Dr. Junaid Niazi. Junaid, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. It's summertime right now at the time of recording in Minneapolis is where you're from.
Yep.
I've been there a few times, but surprisingly, it gets a little hot and humid, right?
Yeah, it is. It has been sort of high 80s to low triple digits at times, and the humidity has been killing us the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but then in a few months you'll all go underground and we don't see you for the next several months, right?
Yes, we hibernate.
So Junaid, it's true. I've been hunting you down because you've got a great story that I think could be very inspirational. You've been very successful. I've seen, and maybe we can talk about what you're doing and kind of what the numbers look like. It's up to you. But first of all, you graduated, you became an internist, and you got involved in the system. What led you to think about other sources of income or other career choices? What led you down that path?
Yeah, no, great question. So during residency, I sort of got caught up with the physician finance blogosphere, and the one of the big things that came out of that was the financial independence, retire early movement. I just figured, well, I'll make a good income as a physician, even if in primary care, and as long as if I'm wise with my money and do the right things, I'll be able to retire earlier and be able to, do all the things that I want to do. But it became pretty apparent after I finished my training and got into the real world in my first attending job that I was starting to burn out, and mostly from the systems issues involving medicine. Because as we're going to touch upon a little bit later, I figured out the charting and clinic workflow stuff. So that wasn't necessarily burning me out. it was all those other things, all the other barriers to being able to care for the patient in front of me, be it insurance companies or pharmacy benefit managers or any number of third-party intermediaries. And that was starting to wear on me and was very draining. So, I started questioning the length of duration of a career in practicing medicine full time. Now, thankfully, I was able to offset part of my FTE pretty early on with a role within my organization as one of the outpatient, what are called information services medical directors, as you mentioned in the intro. And basically, we use Epic at my organization, and we try to help make Epic work a little better for end users, including physicians, as well as sort of drive better, safer patient care. Now, I referenced the physician financial blogosphere. A couple of key folks there, namely Dr. Peter Kim and Dr. Bonnie Koo, really started talking a lot about mindset and coaching. And that kind of, piqued my interest. And I started looking into that a little bit more. I subsequently stumbled across the Life Coach School podcast by a coach, Brooke Castillo. And I started to undertake some self-coaching. And what that means is you're really trying to write down what your thoughts are in that moment and sort of start to see there are things that I'm writing down that I'm not sort of actively bringing into my mind and reflecting on. And why is that? And a lot of our thoughts are automatic, and a lot of our automatic thoughts that happen in the background are sort of negatively tinged. Our brains are very negatively oriented, unfortunately. So, I was working on this, trying to pull these negative thoughts, pull these other thoughts, and the underlying principle here is your thoughts end up creating your results. And if you're having all these negative thoughts, it might be hindering you from creating the results you want in life or living the life that you want. So, I had some limited success with self-coaching, but I was sold on the idea. And then this was sort of early 2020. And then, COVID pandemic struck, and I started hearing about physician coaches. That's around the time I learned about you. I learned about Dr. Sunny Smith, and I actually was able to join her group coaching program through another venue. It's for women physicians. She let two guys in that summer. I was one of those. And, in the setting of being coached by physician coaches, surrounded by peers, sort of that transformation of mine exploded. And what was really striking to me was that I felt so much better. Nothing had really changed in my life. But at that point in time, I was still feeling so much better. And mind you, this was mid 2020. So we're still in the early throes of the pandemic, lots of uncertainty. My wife and I didn't know if we would have jobs month to month. We're seeing a lot of physicians lose their jobs. George Floyd was murdered about 10 blocks away from where we live. There was civil unrest. There was the government response to the civil unrest unfolding around us. And, to boot, we had a baby in the midst of all that as well, our baby number 2. And despite all that going on, I was doing okay and probably better than I was doing at the beginning of 2020. So the only explanation I had is this coaching stuff is working. So for me, having gone through that group coaching program at Dr. Sunny Smith, I thought the next best step was to actually train as a coach. And that was, again, really mostly for myself. I figured I would best learn the tools if I did the training. I could apply those to myself, and I might do something with that later on. But as I went through the training, there were a lot of physicians joining me in the training, and I'd always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial itch. You may recall, and sometime in 2020, you and I had corresponded a little bit about me working as I think it was a personal finance coach in some capacity, and you were just you were challenging me with some really good questions about how would I differentiate myself and things like that, which I actually really appreciated at the time. And as I was watching my colleagues get transformed by this, and I was too, I was like, man, I really need to bring coaching to my colleagues, because this is kind of like a burnout busting tool, and there are very limited resources and tools for actually combating burnout, save time away from the noxious stimuli that are driving your burnout. So, that's what really drove me to go get certified through the Life Coach School.
So yeah, so interesting. You just did this for yourself, sounds like. And when did you start thinking, well, maybe I can create, a revenue source from this?
Yeah. It was shortly after I'd started the coach training, because part of the initial part of coach training is learning all the tools, practicing it regularly, and the second half you can sort of go into a track which focuses on how can you build a business around it. So when we had to start selecting our tracks, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I could consider doing this, especially if I think this is a useful thing to bring to my colleagues. So in sort of the late or fall of 2020, I filed the paperwork, got a business checking account, did all the things I had to do, and launched Prosperous Life MD to silence, because I hadn't done any marketing or anything, but I had a website. So I had my little corner of the internet staked out.
As a doctor, I wasn't used to asking for help, especially when it came to subjects outside of medicine. But then I found physiciancoaches.com. In an instant, I found hundreds of experts to help me in all aspects of life. On areas I was afraid to ask: dealing with burnout, starting a side gig, money management, even help with my marriage. And the best part? Nearly all experts are physicians themselves. After reading their profile and a quick chat, I knew I found the right mentor for me. At physiciancoaches.com, help from professional colleagues is just a click away.
Okay, so let's talk about it. You got the website in, you're all excited. You got probably your business entity, all that set up. You probably set up like your PayPal or all that, and nothing. So then what did you do?
Well, I probably cursed Kevin Costner under my breath because I built it and they did not, in
Field
fact,
agreed.
come. So, no, I'd been interfacing again with a lot of these other coaches. We were all just really excited that we had found this tool. We were doing this work. So, you're probably familiar with Dr. Jimmy Turner,
Sure.
physician philosopher. So, he was launching his Alpha Coaching Experience, which is a physician coaching program. It's still going on, actually. And he tapped me to be one of the one-on-one coaches for that. So that was my first sort of paid coaching experience, and it was through working with his clients and doing some one-on-ones, but also mostly on the group coaching calls. I noticed I kept chiming in every time there was something about charting or a clinic workflow, and Jimmy actually called me out and said, "You know what, Junaid, you just need to do a presentation to our group, run a little workshop on charting efficiency." So I said, "Oh, okay." And that's sort of where my niche came from. So, sometimes others can see what we're good at, when we might not be able to recognize that as something that we can offer to others. So, I did that workshop. The folks that attended that, some of them had some great outcomes from that. There was a transplant nephrologist who the next day shaved 4 hours off her work day and was like, emailed me just ecstatic. And I was like, oh man, maybe this is something I could do for others too.
Now this is very fascinating. So you worked with Jimmy, and it sounds like a paid relationship, but also probably a mentor mentee relationship to some extent. He You were talking a lot about charting. Now, there's some people who will say, I would like to do something like that, but I need to get some credentialing, or maybe I need to work for Epic for 5 years. What kind of background did you have that you felt that you could adequately teach on this subject?
Honestly, it was just on the ground in the trenches, charting as a
Charting,
primary care
right?
physician. That was it. My role as an information services medical director sounds very formal, and I get to do some really cool work. Get to see how some of the decisions are made from Epic, and how organizations implement Epic. But even having not had that experience, I had figured out the workflows and the efficiencies that I've done. And obviously mine are shaped by the fact I work at an organization that uses Epic, but a lot of it are just is just common sense skills and, working within a team, learning to delegate, things like that are really EHR agnostic, if you will.
Right, right. And the reason why I brought that up, because as you know, as I work with coaches, is often one of their stopping points. They'll say, I can coach, but I just don't feel ready enough. Either I need to spend, years in getting some type of certification, or I need to study all the 10 top EMRs and go through their system. And then when you find out they never launched a business. So
Right.
what was that within you? There must have been something within you just say, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And I'm just going to, did you charge money at the beginning? Did you wait to see if you could get some testimonials and do some free work? How did you set that up?
Yeah, I did charge money from the beginning. I launched a beta program. Prior to that, I'd been releasing weekly content twice a week. I would
Mhm.
do a blog post, and then I would do sort of a weekly update. And I'm in people's inboxes twice a week still, so that consistency helped. But there's a quote that Brooke Castillo, the master coach under whom I trained, has that says, discomfort is the currency of your dreams. And it's
Mm.
really stepping into that discomfort, knowing you don't have all the answers. You don't know how to do it, but you will figure it out. And if you're willing to sit with that discomfort, go through trial and tribulation, on the other side of that is something potentially amazing. And, I hear the same thing from physicians as well. Like, we're so concerned that we need to have some formal degree or credential. I know this comes up for you a lot when you're talking to others. Should I get an MBA? Should I, if I want to be an administrator or things like that? And I think we're sort of just trained to get degrees. We're like
Yeah.
degree farming, machines. We'll, if there's something else we can add after our name, we will do it. But for entrepreneurship, I mean, that's by definition sort of the name of the game. Is, there is no necessarily there's no manual for this. It's just, you go out, we are inherently problem solvers, and often the same thinking that led to the problem is not going to solve it. So we have to think a little bit out of the box. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to offer this program. I'm going to throw up some Facebook ads, and we'll see. And I think I had a niche that really hit a pain point. And in some degrees, or to some degree, I should say, I think if you can identify a pain point, speak to that pain point sincerely, since I was, again, in the trenches, and offer a solution. And I'd offered a lot of blog post, free advice, things like that previously. So I think I'd sort of established myself as an authority, is why I was able to succeed. After the beta launch that I did, I got testimonials. I got some raving fans who were able to spread the word. And then, on subsequent launches, there've been people who've been waiting for me to open the doors again. So you just got to take that first step. And that's what I would say to all those people who say, well, I'm not quite ready. Well, when will you be ready? Because you're the only one standing in the way of your own success.
So let's talk about it. So you did one-on-one coaching through Jimmy. Is that correct? Or was it also group coaching as well?
One-on-one. Yeah.
One-on-one. Okay. Now for your charting course, did you just go straight to doing a group coaching, or did you do some one-on-one first?
I had a couple of one-on-one clients
Mm-hmm.
that were mine, not through the Alpha Coaching program. And then I launched the group coaching program. And now, I have a handful of one-on-one clients. Some of them are sort of legacy clients.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, just time constraints. It's the group coaching.
So why did you prefer to do that? You mentioned time constraints. What else did you lend yourself to doing a group coaching? Or maybe there's something in charting that maybe it is best taught as a group.
Well, one thing I came to notice in a lot of my clients was it's sort of the shame they had that they were struggling with charting, and that what it meant about them as a physician and as a person. And one thing that I thought might be a good way to combat that is just to show them there's others that are in the same boat. They're in the same shoes. And honestly, still to date, even on my most recent call last week, people are like, I can't believe others are going through this. Like, this is exactly me. It's just so validating that others are struggling with this. And I think, especially if you're struggling with charting and you're putting all those extra hours into work, you're probably even more isolated than someone who finishes their work on time or in a more timely fashion. And so you think there's something inherently wrong with you. And just seeing that there's other physicians in a group setting in which you can participate as much or as little as you want. It's on a Zoom webinar style, so you can remain hidden in the back and not say a peep and still benefit from seeing others get coached. You can pipe up in the chat, or you can come on and be coached. And I think just that shared experience of there's not something wrong with me, there might be some systems issues at play, is incredibly validating to a lot of physicians. So I tested that with the group coaching initially right out of the gate, and I think it's one of the best aspects of it, to be honest.
So let's talk about charting for a bit, and the importance of being efficient in your charting. For someone who struggles with this, when you were looking to create a program, where do doctors go for this? What did you find any other competitors or other solutions? What else is out there?
Yeah, I think if you go looking, if you looked a couple of years ago, I think all you would have found were maybe some resources on coding specifically and things like that. And maybe there might have been some practice development folks out there, more like consultants. As far as folks who have started exploring this in terms of coaching, I know there's a coach who trained through the Life Coach School who she's Canadian, and she has a program in Canada that also serves a lot of US based physicians. There's, I think, Dr. Phil Boucher. I don't know if you know him. He's a pediatrician in Nebraska. He has a clinic workflow type program. And then there's a couple others coming through the pipeline that I know of that are interested in launching similar programs, because, none of us are going to be able to help all the physicians out there that need help. We all have our own unique styles and personalities. And, for physicians to have some options is only a good thing, I think.
Well, that's actually pretty commendable for you. Most people wouldn't tell you about possible competition that's coming out, and I love that you've got that feeling of abundance. But so let's talk about it. We've got people on the call, or going to be watching or listening this, who are maybe want to be a coach or are a coach, and we kind of touched on how many people you've trained. Maybe you can share some of the numbers. How many times have you run? Let's talk about what the course is called. Charting Conquered. It's a how long is it?
So
all online.
Yeah, it's all online. Every iteration of the program is a little different. So it started out as an 8-week program, and then just based on feedback, I was able to get that down to 6 weeks. And it used to be you got coaching during those 6 weeks. As of this last launch, just a couple of weeks ago, it's going to be an ongoing coaching program. So, most weeks of the year we have a weekly group coaching call. So it's not time limited, and that'll be ongoing access. And there's 6 core modules that are released weekly from when you join that cover sort of coaching aspects of things, as well as some practical workflows. And then, I send everybody a nice workbook, so they don't have to print off my apparently printer destroying worksheets, or ink destroying, I should say, just so people have something tangible they can use and reference. And, it's set up through an online portal that's password protected. They have access to all of that. They can listen to it when they're driving. Same with the coaching calls. They can catch the replays and all later. So, right now it's going to be a sort of an ongoing program, because what I realized was some folks were joining, they were only able to make 1 or 2 of the calls. And then, they would sort of reach out and say, hey, can I join other future calls? And I actually would open up if once you're in the community, you always were able to access other coaching calls, but I wanted to just have something more consistent. So folks have a call, I say every week of the year, but I'll take off big holidays and if I'm on vacation. So most of the weeks of the year that there's a weekly group coaching call.
So how many incarnations has it been now?
Just had my 4th launch that wrapped up at the end of June. And then moving forward, I'll continue to do some launches because I really think there is some strength in having a cohort of people go together, just learning and growing together like that. But I also have folks that really want to get in between. So I think I'm working on being able to have it available so people can join anytime. And then if they want to join a cohort, they can wait for the next cohort. And I'll probably do roughly quarterly launches for that.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Yield Nodes. If you're looking to get into cryptocurrency, but you're scared away by all the volatility, first, I don't blame you. Recently, I discovered a passive income opportunity, which is known as Yield Nodes, which is a profit sharing program where they are investing in creating nodes, creating servers that can help the blockchain. My returns average about 8 to 10% per month. I'm not a financial advisor. You should do what you feel is important for your money, but if you want to check this out, go to bootstrapmd.com/go/yieldnodes, and I think you'll be really excited about the opportunities that are possible through cryptocurrency. Now, it's up to you if you want to share numbers. If not, I will. But it's safe to say it's a six-figure business.
Yeah.
How much has this changed your life in any way? You know, you got the Lamborghini now, or the more diapers for the kids, or have been able to reduce your hours? What's been the extent of it?
Yeah, I actually, one of the first things I was able to do just from coaching, even just from getting coached before I formed a business, was I cut my hours down at work because I finally was able to get off that financial independence, retire early treadmill of, make hay while the sun shines, and then I'll be able to punch my ticket later. And before I'd made a dime coaching, I had put in to reduce my FTE by 20%. So I'm 0.8 in total now. So that was a big change, and that was a result of getting coaching, if you will. So any business, there's overhead, and you reinvest a lot of the money back into the business, and Facebook ads and things like that. But I've been trying to diversify my income stream. So I have my physician income, I have coaching income, and I try to shuffle a lot of that income then into real estate syndications, just to sort of have a third leg to a income stool. So in that way, it's been nice. And honestly, if things in medicine goes completely sideways, some would argue that we're already there. It's just nice knowing that I've built up some muscle, if you will, as an entrepreneur, that I know I can try things. I've been able to build an online business, which itself is just, it makes showing up to work a little bit different. So there's not that I need to show up to work. It's I am choosing to show up to work. I am choosing to continue serving my patients, working with my colleagues, and taking care of people. And I think it gives you a different perspective on medicine entirely.
So what have you learned? I mean, you pretty much hit a home run. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, because there are people who get their online business for whatever reason, they can't get it started. It sounds like you pretty much hit a home run, or at least got to second or third base on your first try. But were there any challenges or anything that maybe surprised you when you launched your coaching business?
Oh, there've been a ton of challenges. That would be a fun podcast episode.
You can have your back.
Right. No, I don't want to discourage anybody, but like I said, that quote I gave earlier, discomfort is the currency of your dreams. Launching a program can be a lot of work. And I figured out the delegation aspect on the clinical side of things. The delegation aspect with something that I consider almost more my baby is a lot more challenging for me. And I think probably my biggest holdup, and why I think maybe I'm not even more successful, if I only hit a infield shot to second base instead of a home run, would be just that easing up and really being able to delegate work and focusing on my zone of genius, which would be creating the content, figuring out new ways of marketing, and helping physicians in general.
So where is Charting Concord? What's the plan coming out? You got anything coming exciting, that 5-year plan, anything like that, or just kind of go with the flow?
Yeah, I think my overall coaching platform is Prosperous Life MD, and I say that I like to help physicians live their most prosperous life. And people think that just means sort of money and finances, and it really isn't. I think
No.
for me, a prosperous life is more on the, do you have all your ducks in a row, and not just financial, but your mindset, your well-being, your relationships. And long term, I think I have a lot of quirky knowledge on all kind, not maybe not quirky, but just on a lot of topics, like even contracts, personal finance, all kinds of stuff. So somehow parlaying that into either even just blog posts or other resources available for physicians is sort of where I see things headed. I'm also, I've had success, like you said, launching an online business for physicians. And so I think part of me is intrigued by the idea of, if I don't have time for this at this moment, but in the future, helping other physicians maybe launch their coaching businesses or things like that. So it might be programs that run in parallel with the charting program.
Well, I have a feeling after this podcast is launched, you might get a few inquiries on your website. So where's the best place if somebody wanted to reach out for you, either through your charting course or your life coach? What's the best place to get a hold of you?
The best place is my main website for Prosperous Life MD. So that's prosperouslifemd.com. There's a contact form there. You can reach out with a question, shoots me an email. I get back to you. The nice thing about that link that I think you're going to include is at the top of that page, there's you can take a quiz about what your charting personality is. So it's kind of a fun quiz to take. And at the end of it, I'll share with you some resources that sort of pertain to your charting personality. So at the very least, you might get a kick out of it. And you might even, get some tips that are actionable for you to improve your clinic workflow and your efficiency.
So that website, again, is prosperouslifemd.com, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like, just kind of wrapping everything up, can you imagine, would you have been successful, do you think, if you launched this business without the coaching, without the self-coaching?
I honestly don't, because, for me, coaching really tapped into an abundance mindset that you referenced a little bit earlier too on this call. And coming from a place of abundance, you're willing to make mistakes. You're willing to put yourself out there. You're willing to help others without expecting anything in return. And, another quote we kind of go off of is, you'll either find success or you'll get the lesson you need. And if something I try doesn't work, I'll iterate and I'll try again. If that doesn't work, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as the scientific process, right? You put out a hypothesis, you test it. If it doesn't work, you don't just scrap the whole thing and say, science is, well, some people might, but as physicians, we don't do that. We keep iterating, we keep trying things, push new medications, new therapy modalities, new procedures. So, I think without coaching, I wouldn't have had that sort of mindset foundation to where I'd accept failure as part and parcel of the process. And if you're not failing, you're probably doing something wrong, or you're probably handcuffing yourself in some way.
Yeah, I think you have to fail if you want to grow. Yeah. And I see this. We were physician coaching. We had a little mastermind group that we did, and you were a part of it. And what I gather from you is you're a tester. You like to test different things to see what works and what other people have tried, because, kind of like Edison was back in the day, right, developing the light bulb. He tried 100 ways to develop the light bulb, and people thought he failed 99 times. It's just, well, there's 99 ways that I'm just one step closer to success. So exactly. Junaid, thank you again. Thank you for sharing this, and thank you for sharing your successes. And I think it'd be very inspiring to other doctors who either are coaches or want to get into the field. Any last minute thoughts before we end?
Yeah, a couple of things. First, I'll just, if that's all right, I'll say, coaching right now is proliferating at an incredible rate, specifically physician coaching. And in some ways, it's becoming a victim of its own success. So, I see on online communities, people liken it to multi-level marketing, or sort of, scams or pyramid schemes or things like that. And, I think there's in anything, there's going to be some bad players. Maybe they start sending you, direct messages or things like that that are unsolicited. And, as coaches, we talk about that, how we sort of universally frown upon those types of practices. So I would say don't write off coaching just based on what other people have said online, or if other people are skeptical. Always healthy to have a healthy dose of skepticism with anything. But I think what everyone's going to start seeing is coaching is going to become more widespread at your employer and institutional level. And, I have colleagues that are getting tapped to help coach at very large institutions. And I think some of you guys are going to start experiencing that from your own employers offering coaching to you. And if it's offered to you, if that's how you first experience it, then I would encourage you to take it on. And the last thing I just want to say, Mike, is thank you for creating this space. You're kind of like the OG coach and entrepreneur. I forget how many years you've been doing this. Is it 20, 25, something like that?
You stop counting after you get to a certain age, but I'll take it.
Right. Well, thanks for laying the groundwork so that and offering resources and opportunities for us to also grow and showcase our work.
Well, thank you, Junaid. Thank you for sharing your story. Again, I found it very inspiring. Again, the website is prosperouslifemd.com. If you're interested in learning more about that or his charting courses, please go out there. You can see all the testimonials he's had. He's had some great success stories. And again, Junaid, thanks again for taking the time on your busy schedule to join us today.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks, everybody. And as always, if you're interested in coaching or getting coaching yourself, why not reach out to contact somebody, either Junaid or someone else. If you're struggling, don't just try to do it alone. Find out someone who's actually been there and done that, and keep moving forward.